Hello, beautiful humans. Welcome to the Human Beauty Movement podcast, your source for hope, healing, happiness, and humanity. My name is Jennifer Norman. I'm the founder of the Human Beauty Movement and your host. This podcast is here to guide you on your journey of self-love, empowerment, soul alignment, and joy. With each episode, I invite beautiful humans from all corners of the globe to join me for open conversations about their life lessons and the important work that they are doing to help heal humankind. Take a moment now to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss an episode. I'm so glad you're here joining me for today's show. You know, it took me a really long time to realize this, but one of the biggest lessons I've learned in life is that the opposite of love isn't hate, it's actually fear. Once I was able to recognize all the decisions I was making just to avoid situations I feared rather than rushing toward love and bliss, seriously, my whole world changed. There's so much depth to this concept that I wanted to dedicate this episode to it. Today, we're going to discuss love versus fear and how to tell the difference. For the past 20 years, Cindi Buckley has helped literally hundreds of people through meaningful life transitions, guiding them to make changes for the better. She is the author of 2 books, Love Awakens You and Cosmic Unity, and she's a stage 4 cancer survivor. I would like to express a warm welcome to the podcast, Cindi.
Hello, Jennifer. Thank you for having me on your show. I'm looking forward to it.
It is my pleasure and my honor, and I am looking forward to this conversation too. I love that your book, Love Awakens You, talks about love versus fear. Can you tell us how you started to understand what love was and why you wanted to write about it?
Well, actually, it was in my mid-40s that I decided that the corporate world wasn't for me. I worked in the corporate world and I said, everybody's always fighting and trying to get one up on each other. And I'm like, I can't do this anymore. I just want everybody to get along. Now, that's a big, okay, I want everyone to get along is my goal. Will it happen in my lifetime? Probably not, but I can help people to get there. In the early 2000s, became a student of A Course in Miracles. So I read The Disappearance of the Universe, A Course in Miracles, and did the workbook and A Course in Miracles at the same time, which I highly recommend you don't do because your ego is going to get challenged. Oh my God. The things I thought I was the bee's knees because I had all these psychic gifts and everybody is special in whatever way there is. It's just we have different gifts in lifetimes where we help people. So through reading A Course in Miracles, when I was doing those all at the same time, these inspirational sayings started coming to me. Middle of the night, I'd be in a restaurant, give me a napkin, write it down. I mean, I had pieces of paper collected. Well, this went on for about 2 years, and after about 2 years, I decided, I went off on my way and did different things, wrote the Cosmic Unity book and crystal healings and that stuff. And about a year and a half ago, I woke up one morning and I said, maybe I should write a book. Maybe I should put it in a book because it would be helpful for people. So I did that. Now, Love Awakens You teaches you how to recognize and understand the difference between love and fear. And I'm going to say, even writing and reading my own book had helped me a great deal because I like being a hermit. I really am not a person who wants to get out and speak, but having written the book and read it so many times, it's helped my self-confidence so I could get out and speak about it. And what I realized is by helping people learn to connect to their intuition themselves, that they will then have a very nice life, like I have. It's a process.
Okay, excellent. So you talked about a couple of things there. You talked about how you came to discover that the corporate world wasn't for you. It was really just something that you maybe had tried on for a period of your life. It probably suited you for a phase of your life and led to perhaps a gaining or a solidifying of an ego identity. And then something happened where you just decided, some people call it midlife crisis, some people call it your renaissance. I don't know. I mean, I did the same thing. I left corporate America right around, in my 40s as well. There might be something to that where we just wise up and we say, this isn't worth doing anymore. So
No.
we want to live for love. We want to live for ourselves. And so perhaps at that moment, was that the time where you said, this is really my time to lean more into the things that I love, which is leaning into intuition, leading into understanding spiritual energy?
Yes, well, it was a process.
Mm,
But when after I wrote this book, I figured out I have stage 4 cancer, have had it for 25 years, will probably have it the rest of my life.
mm.
And while that story is inspirational and helpful, how can I help people learn what I've learned? How can I teach them to do it themselves? Because they have to know what to do. And that's when I realized by writing the book and teaching people to connect to their intuition, their higher guidance, that is what's going to help them learn to have peace, love, happiness, self-confidence in their lives, and become calm.
So, Cindy, it's so interesting that you decided to write about love versus fear. Can you tell us all of the pieces of your life, the highlights of your life that led you to want to study this a bit more and share it?
Anytime you want to make a change, it starts with a sense of discontentment. You must have some sense of, I need to make a change. There's got to be a sense of discontentment. I ended up exploring various different alternative healing modalities. One of them was A Course in Miracles, which is about forgiveness. But it isn't about forgiveness in the typical sense of the word. It's about forgiveness where you understand that no one has done anything wrong. Everyone is innocent. And as you forgive everyone, you're forgiving yourself. What happens with this is you start to understand the ego is ruling you and not love. Ego equates to fear, love equates to spirit. High vibrational spirits. I got to clarify that because there is a difference.
Sure.
And what I learned was when I got my diagnosis of stage 4 cancer, I spent a month crying and I'd already been a student of A Course in Miracles for a little while, and at the end of the month I was exhausted. I was physically and emotionally exhausted. And I said, I can't do this anymore. This is more detrimental to my health than
Yeah.
being happy. So I said to my guides, what do I do? I could die any minute. Everybody goes through the stages of grief when they get some trauma or a diagnosis in their life. I went through those stages. I just went through them pretty fast
Yeah.
because I'd been a student of A Course in Miracles and I was learning that I need to let go of ego to be able to allow happiness to come in. And my guide said to me, live your life. And I said, okay, I'm going to live my life. And as I started to live my life, I realized, yes, I had stage 4. No, it's never going to go away. I'm always going to have it, this particular type of cancer. And admittedly, it took about a year before I stopped thinking about it all the time. But as you start to allow to release the fear that comes into your life in so many devious ways, you replace that with love, an overwhelming sense of peace comes. Now, the pivotal moment for me was I was driving home one day and I was talking to my guides and I was thinking, what's going on and blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, I had this most overwhelming sense, it's a little hard to describe, of peace and pure love to the point where I knew I loved everyone. It was pure. I knew with no uncertain terms there was no duality, nothing. And I got to tell you, for about a week, absolutely nothing, and I mean absolutely nothing, could bother me. I was on a high, so high up. It was amazing. Okay, it only lasted for a few days. My goal is to help people experience that. You don't maintain it because we have so much ego to get rid of and fear, and it's so hidden in so many different ways. I've learned to let go. I still have more to let go. That's okay. I can teach and help people with what I've learned so far. They can make huge strides. Life isn't supposed to be hard. It isn't meant to be hard. We make it hard on ourselves. How do we get out of this trap where we become comfortable with how things are, and we think, compared to true happiness and what we think happiness is, how do we know it can be better? Well, I'm here to tell you it can be a lot better, a
Amazing.
whole lot better.
I'm so eager to dive into that part of it. I want to mention that I think that a lot of people would say, well, fear is an innate aspect of something that helps to keep us alive because back when we were cavemen and whatnot, and a saber-toothed tiger is coming at you, you had to know how to react very quickly in order to get away from that danger. And it helped to keep us as humans alive. It's not that we are trying to erase fear or get rid of stress. It's just that we have to learn that we have evolved and that a lot of the things that we fear today aren't about true survival anymore. It's really about the ego playing tricks on us and creating facades of I'm going to die if I don't get this job. I'm going to die if I can't get that car. I'm going to die if I don't eat this wonderful piece of cake that I want to eat. So it could be anything. It's things that we fabricate in our modern day. And so there is an importance about teasing out the kind of fear that we're talking about in our modern day versus the idea of living a life out of true love, not fearing what other people are thinking of us and our egos, learning to that there is this pure unrequited love and that we all are the same. You also touched on an interesting point, which was about forgiveness. Like if you recognize that you love everyone, then it's very hard to be offended. When you're feeling in your body a triggering moment, like jealousy or rage or anger or annoyance at somebody, that's a messenger, isn't it? It's a messenger that there's something going on in you that is causing this reaction that you then sometimes point and accuse somebody else or blame somebody else for when it really is resolved in you. It really changes and shifts the paradigm in a lot of ways that are unfamiliar, but once we become more self-aware of what's going on and are able to change our minds about how we're thinking about certain things, then we allow ourselves to be much more open to love. So I'd love to get into this, Cindi. I would love for you to tell us a little bit more about the content of your book. I think that it's amazing how pervasive fear is in our lives, and we're not even aware of it, are we?
We are not aware of it. I'm going to give some examples that people are going to find a little shocking.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if you think you're an individual, you're in fear. Now, people will go, but I am an individual. Physically, yes, but mentally, you don't want to be. And the reason why, if you think you're an individual, because what happens is all the other things come into play: selfishness, ego, competition, conflict. All those things come in when you think you're an individual. And if you are in those pieces of fear, that's not love. If you're actually in love, one of the things you can do is say to yourself, is what I'm thinking kind and compassionate?
Mm-hmm.
Is what I'm going to say kind and compassionate?
Mm-hmm.
These are the important things because integrity and honor, those come from love. Everything else is fear. A slight little twinge of discomfort is fear. You need to resolve that. It has absolutely nothing to do with the other person. Nothing. It is your issue. It's not their issue. You have something that upsets you about the other person, and sometimes you can't. How could something you find so disgusting about another person be a reflection of you? What you think about yourself? Well, it's so deep down and hidden. The ego says, you need to get back at them. You need to prove you're better than them. You don't want to do that. You just want to forgive them. And I know sometimes people say, well, if somebody murders somebody I love, well, there's a lesson there for everybody. And no, it's not good that somebody murdered somebody. Absolutely not. Somebody steals $1 billion. No, that's not good. But how do you know that in another lifetime you didn't cause them pain? You didn't kill them? How do you know that? You
Mm-hmm.
don't.
Mm-hmm.
All you need to know is something bothers you, you need to forgive it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the other thing you need to do is you have to remember to ask for help. And you want to ask for help from your higher guidance and the angels, whatever name you want to call it. God, I don't care. Pick a name. I use the Holy Spirit because I am a student of A Course in Miracles, and that is the term that is used.
You referred to your guides earlier, and so a lot of people will call their angels guides or their
Yeah, either
ancestors,
way,
their
it
higher self.
doesn't matter. Ask for help, and help is always given. But here's the key. You have to learn to accept the help. And that's the hard part because we're so used to doing everything on our own. I can do this without help. I'm a strong person or whatever. Nobody does anything without help at all, ever. They're always there. They can't interfere unless you ask. You have a seed of discontentment. You say, I need some help. Then they will be there and everybody comes to help you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's going to take practice at first if you're not used to doing this.
Right. I wanted to just pause there for a moment because I think that the idea of individual and identity is such a rich topic unto itself. And we could probably have a whole series of podcasts on individuality and self-identity and the self, because here we are in human form. Then people will say, I'm a woman, you're a man, I am Black, I am Asian, I am white. And so there are these identification cues and labels and visual tones and physical, because we're human beings having a human experience. And so the idea of individuality is something that people will say, we can't get away from that. If we had a different experience, if we truly were just spirits and all energy, then the physical experience would not be as meaningful, but we're here for a reason and we're having it. And so we can call it ego or we can call it individuality, but there are folks that will identify with a group of people out of love, but then not realize that they're alienating and ostracizing people who are not. And then there's othering. And so there's almost like two sides of the same coin, where a fence can be there to help keep things in, but it also, by the same token, keeps things out. And so it's recognizing that there is this unique duality that happens, that the more that you step into your identification, the more that you are closing in and the less you are recognizing there's an outward wall or a partition that is being built in your own mind that is creating separation, even more separation as you individualize from anybody else. And so that is where the lesson comes in about just awareness, kind of seeing it for what it is. It's like, yeah, I'm here, and you can step into and embrace everything about your own humanity. And you can embrace and love everything about everybody else's humanity and how they choose to express and how they choose to be. And we also know that there is this thing called justice because we have created organization and rules and things like that within our lives to help us survive, to help us thrive. Yet recognizing that if something is done unto you, you can choose to go into social justice or into the traditional justice system in order to resolve it, or you can forgive, or you can do both. But the key is understanding what kind of emotions it draws into you and the lessons that come from living a life of love and having a different perspective versus feeling like the world is out to get you, that other people are not like you, they don't understand you, and seeing if you want to move yourself out of that kind of thinking, out of that kind of perspective, because there is a lot of joy that can come from expanding your sense of self and recognizing that everybody around you is just a reflection of your true inner being. Is that something that resonates, Cindy, you think, with
Yes,
what
it
you're
does.
saying?
I am going to actually give you a couple of examples. Years ago,
Please.
when I was in the corporate world, I worked in IT and we were having a group meeting and everybody was going on about male and female and this and that. And I spoke up and said, no, if we just stopped seeing each other as male or female, we just saw each other as people, we could all get along better. This was during a workshop or something.
How did that go over?
Not so well, trust me. It
Yeah.
went over really badly. And the instructor came to me afterwards and said, I don't think you understand. People see you as a woman.
Mhm.
That's the problem. And I thought, no, that is not the problem. I'm in my 30s, by the way, when this happened.
Mhm.
No, that's not the problem. The problem is everyone sees and they make a perception and they made a judgment. I no longer at this point see people as individuals.
Mhm.
I see people as spirit. I see their essence.
Mhm.
And once you get to that point,
Yeah.
everything is about love.
Yeah.
You don't have any prejudices. You don't make judgments. You don't dislike somebody's haircut or the way they dress. I mean, there are a zillion people out there that are all about
Mhm.
appearances.
Sure.
And I'm about the essence of a person. How
Mhm.
can I help that essence to grow into who they truly are and who they deserve to be?
Mhm, mhm. Yes, I can completely understand that. And I also understand that everybody has different beliefs. Everybody is in a different place of vibration in their own lives and is essentially seeing life from their perspective. It's very hard for people to see outside of their perspective when they're having their moments and they're living their lives and they're having their experiences. And so I know that a lot of people who are very much into their identity and embracing their own sense of self may frown upon the idea that we are all one, everybody matters, because there are certainly groups and different organizations that would say Black Lives Matter, Asian Lives Matter. What's going on in with wars happening all over the world right now is an atrocity, and we have to do something about it. When there are individuals such as Cindi who are on a different plane, it's almost like a different elevation of vibration and a recognition of the lightness of spirit. Cindi is definitely one that is an entity that has definitely elevated out, probably more out of the physical and into the spiritual. And so she's recognizing the energy and the vibration of all the natural elements in of this universe and has that belief system. And so one of the things that I just wanted to express, because this podcast, I invite everyone. I want to make sure that everybody's voices are heard because that is the way that we understand each other. And so I am this bridge, just knowing that there are people listening who might be like, whoa, wait a minute, I just don't get this. And that's why I wanted to bring Cindi on, because I think that it's important for us to say, this is why she believes what she believes. And oh, I get it. I understand now. It's not where I'm coming from. It's not my lived experience, but I understand her lived experience, the fact that she sees things, she feels things, she definitely communicates with others in a very different way. And when you're put into an environment where everybody is taught to to kind of sit in their own boxes, as it were, somebody like Cindi is not going to be able to fit into that box as neatly as others. And that is okay. And it's okay that Cindi recognized that wasn't a situation that was really causing her to live her bliss, to really feel like she was living out her truth. And how many times have we all felt that way, that we are stuck in this situation and we're like, gosh, I can't understand why people don't get me, why this energy. And when you're feeling that, it's a cue, it's a sign, isn't it, that your spirit is so much different than the situation that you've put yourself into. And you put yourself into that. It's you have radical responsibility for your own life. And so that is another point that is always brought up on my podcast, is that it's understanding and feeling into what you're feeling, knowing when something is off. That's listening to your intuition. That's knowing what you don't know. And then also realizing that there's a lot of assistance when you need it. You are never alone. There's always ways for you to kind of lift out of yourselves and say, gosh, I really need some help. And whether that help comes in the form of like different ideas, maybe it comes in the form of this podcast, maybe it comes in the form of another human being coming to actually serve. Those are the universe finding ways to answer your call. And so let's continue on with the conversation about love versus fear, Cindi. So, how would somebody know the difference between when they're living a life in love or when they're living out of fear, aside from self identity and individualism?
Well, the key thing is to get into the habit of asking yourself, is what I'm about to think or say kind and compassionate?
Mm,
That's the way to start. And as you continue that process, you're going to find that you're going to realize how much fear is actually in your life. you're going to start to say, oh, I wouldn't like someone saying that to me. Why would
Mhm.
I say it to somebody else?
Mhm.
There are going to be moments you're going to do it anyways
Yeah.
because you're just having a sense of anger or whatever. You're
Hmm.
going to do it anyways.
Yeah.
Forgive yourself afterwards and then maybe make an apology or something like that.
Yeah.
Try not to say the words I'm sorry. They often imply guilt. You want to say my apologies
Mm.
or forgive me or something other than I'm sorry. I walk into a store and I'm looking for something, and the sales clerk will say to me, oh, I'm sorry, we don't have that. And I go, it's not your fault.
Hmm.
It has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
Don't say it. I know
Yeah.
people say I'm sorry as a way to be able to, but they're reinforcing guilt in themselves. And you don't
Mm.
want to do that. And guilt is pretty much a useless emotion. It just keeps us motivated in fear. Well,
Mm.
I feel guilty I didn't exercise today, or I feel guilty I didn't say this to a person, or I should have said that. When
Mm-hmm.
you start learning to connect to your intuition, you're going to learn that I did the best I could at that time,
Mm.
and now I know how to do better. They're going to teach you
Ah.
how to do that.
Let us pause for a moment on that because that is such an important point. How many of us feel guilt or feel shame, but mostly guilt, like, oh, I'm not doing a good enough job. I'm not a good enough mom. My friends are going to hate me for this. Guilt, 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 guilt. Like, and it's hard. It's very, very hard not to feel that way because we've been trained, we've been coached ever since we were young that we must behave a certain way. We need to do more. We're not living up to expectations because our parents wanted us to be this, but we are that. And oh, I feel guilty because I'm letting them down. How many times do we feel that way? How do we then shift to this mindset of, I'm doing the best that I can? This is really how I want to live my life. I'm choosing, changing those messages in your mind to, I'm choosing to do this. Not, I have to, it's I get to do this. I choose to do this. I'm stopping what I'm doing now and I'm deciding that whatever activities that I was doing that caused me to feel guilt, they are no longer going to cause me to feel guilt. They are going to cause me to understand that I am doing the best that I can with what I have, and I will always strive to do better. I will always do it, but I'll do it on my own time and I'll do it at my own pace. And if it's not good enough for somebody else, then that's not on me. It's not on me at all, right?
It's a process. People cannot expect to jump from fear to love overnight. We have been in fear for eons.
Mm-hmm.
Eons, long, 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 long time. So it's a process. Be patient with yourself. Just if you say, oh, I screwed up, do better the next time.
Mm-hmm.
Spirit's not going to judge you.
Mm-hmm.
You may think other people are judging you, but the reality is you're judging yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So remember to just take your time, constantly say, and it is a constant process.
Yeah.
Repetition is your best friend,
Yep.
folks. You're learning to play a musical instrument or sports. Guess what? Repetition, repetition. Going from fear to love is exactly the same thing. It's repetition. It's your best friend. Remind yourself. I have a little saying that I like people to say. It's very, very effective. Very simple. Just say, I am always safe and protected.
I am always safe and protected.
This is going to help you when you're in a down period to uplift you. Do it when you're happy as well, by the way, because guess what? It's going to elevate that even more. It's very simple and it is very effective. I still do it when I get
Mm-hmm.
annoyed.
Mm-hmm.
I do a variety of different things, but I still do that as well.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a process to learn to remember to connect intuition. You must ask and be patient with yourself.
Beautiful, wonderful words of wisdom there. So, how do you think that your book, Love Awakens You, helps a person become a better person?
Well, it is actually the way the words are put together. So if you picture a lock, okay, and you put a key into a lock
Okay.
and you turn the key, all right, a little tumbler is going to move. And what happens is you read the book slowly, by the way, a little light comes out. And the more you read the book, another tumbler turns and a little more light comes out. And as more light comes out of you, you will start to feel happier and more at peace. There are no affirmations, self-help protocols, no journaling. You simply read the book slowly, by the way. And I like to say slowly because it took us a long time to get into fear, and it's going to take us a time to get out of fear, into love. So by reading the book, because of the way the words are put together, it causes this unlocking.
Mm.
And you're going to read things that you may not agree with or things that completely resonate with you. That's okay. The things you don't agree with, guess what? Probably read it again a couple of times. And what happens is you'll start to learn to connect to your guides better just by reading the book. I know people find it very hard to believe. You will release fear. It's like an onion. A layer comes off. Read the book
Mm.
again if you want. Another layer comes off. And it works for me because when I was through this process and I was halfway through publishing the book, I woke up and said, I'm not doing it. I'm done. I can't do it. I don't want to do it. I went through this panic attack. A day I rambled on, and my guides just let me ramble on. And finally, they said, take some deep breaths. And I did. And I continued the process and finished the book and published it.
There you go. There you go. So then, how does a person know that they've come to stop living in fear?
Ah, that's a good one. When you ask yourself, is that loving or not? Did I ask my guides for help? If I didn't ask my guides for help and I did something and it upset the other person, not loving.
Mm.
And you will upset other people as you go through this process because you're learning as well. You
Right.
just have to remember to go back and
Yeah.
forgive them. You don't have to necessarily forgive them face to face as long as you forgive them in your mind.
Yeah.
Spirit takes care of making sure they get the message. I call it the storehouse of kindness that gets built for each of us.
Yeah. Yeah. And something will happen when you start to shift your perspective. Your whole world will start shifting. The people around you will start shifting figuratively and literally as well. Because if others around you were resonating in fear and you were resonating in fear, then you're no longer going to be a vibrational match. And so people who are continuing to live in fear may either fall away or they may be inspired by your energy and want to say, like, I want to drink what she's been drinking. and, and because she seems really happy all the time and everything just seems to work out for her and everything just seems to go her way. I want to start feeling like that too. I want to start living like that too. And you can be a role model or an example for others and also start to help light up all of those around you, or recognize that we're going to wish people well that just are not going to be able to understand your point of view and your perspective. And that is okay. And that's beautiful as well. You'll start to attract new energy. You'll start to attract a new tribe to you, and you'll start living a little bit differently. That tends to be what happens when we go through these vibrational shifts.
I have a saying I learned, I think it was reading Disappearance of the Universe, and it's misery loves company, but you don't have to join.
Mm-hmm.
Or we're on the un-merry-go-round, let's get off. Go into
Not
the
my circus, not
merry-go-round.
my monkeys.
Yeah. Why not? Have a sense of humor about this. When you make a mistake, you go, oh my God, make fun of yourself and every now and then. Have a laugh. It'll
Yes.
work. It'll work. Believe it or not, it does work.
Yes, yes. All right. For those who are only listening and don't have the opportunity to see what is behind Cindi, she has shelves and shelves of these gorgeous crystals that she has collected over time. And so I would love for a moment, Cindi, for you to tell us about your relationship with crystals.
My babies. Oh my God. Yes, my babies. I have a very large private collection, and I say large, and nobody believes me till they come and see. There are basically three things that remind us of spirit. One is flowers, one is birds,
Mm-hmm.
and the other is crystals. The
Okay.
thing with crystals is they carry a vibration, a frequency, color, and sound. They carry all four of the things that this planet is built on.
Mm-hmm.
Flowers and birds have some of those. They don't have all four. And so I have such a large collection because I use all the crystals in various different things. And I use them on myself for healing. I
Mm-hmm.
also do crystal healings, and they raise your vibration. You don't have to believe, they just raise your vibration.
Mm-hmm.
You don't even have to believe, they just do it automatically.
Mm, mm. And so I know that your collection is vast and you've got all sorts of different kinds. And so I think that the question would be like, well, how do I know which one to choose? How do I know which, you know,
Oh, yeah.
there's like
I
a
did
whole,
exactly the same thing when I was starting, and this is what I'm going to say. If you have one where you see a spark of light, or you like the color, or you like the shape of it, whatever, you just are drawn to whatever
what
it
you
is.
like. Hmm.
Just whatever you like. I went into a store once. It was a Lemurian seed crystal. It was quite large, and it was on the counter, and my hand went plop right on top of it.
You're
And
like mine.
the person looked at me and said, "We didn't know. We knew that belonged to someone. We didn't know who, but we guess it's yours." And it was, for me, it was at the time was a lot of money, but there was no way I was leaving that store without that crystal. So something like that may happen. I don't know. It's whatever it attracts you.
Oh, okay. All right. Excellent. I have some rapid fire questions for you now. I would love for you to give your answers to. I feel most loved when
Oh, when I'm connected to spirit,
I feel most beautiful when
I'm connected to spirit. I know it's going to sound a little, it might,
That's okay.
I'm going to have a different answer. Don't worry.
That's okay. Humans are.
Really annoying at times. I'm just giving
True.
my first answer that comes out.
That's what we want. Life is,
Not supposed to be hard.
love is.
Oh, so peaceful and wonderful.
Cindi Buckley, everyone. Thank you so much, Cindy, for joining the podcast today. I loved our conversation.
Thank you for having me. It was so much fun.
Thank you for listening to the Human Beauty Movement podcast. Be sure to follow, rate, and review us wherever you stream podcasts. The Human Beauty Movement is a community-based platform that cultivates the beauty of humankind. Check out our workshops, find us on social media, and share our inspiration with all the beautiful humans in your life. Learn more at thehumanbeautymovement.com. Thank you so much for being a beautiful human.